In this video, I'll be sharing with you a requested tutorial on how to cut a stylish overbust 6 pieces corset. And this corset pattern inspo is from Bijad Fashion Academy. So to cut this pattern, I will not be using my actual measurement. I will be using a smaller measurement. So for this pattern, I marked my shoulder to bust, under bust, waist, and you're going to mark the blouse length of your choice. Measure where you want your blouse length to stop. Now, after marking this, so the first measurement I'll take is my shoulder divided by 2. So note, I'm not using my actual measurement for this. So I'll mark the shoulder divided by 2 here, and I will come down by 1 inch. From that point, I'll mark a basic neckline of 3 inches by 3 inches. So I'm just using this as a guide for this pattern, and I'll go ahead to connect this all the way down. Now I'll place my ruler to connect to the shoulder slant. The next step is to find the chest line, which is the bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. I'll place my ruler and draw a straight line at that point. After I'm done marking, I'll place my ruler, mark what I have at the shoulder at the chest line, place my ruler and draw a straight line. At the chest line, I will mark my bust circumference divided by 4 there. Now, go ahead to place your tape and divide what you have here into 2 equal parts, come out by ½ inch. Connect from this midpoint all the way up and connect from the midpoint all the way to the bust circumference divided by 4 at the chest line of your pattern. Now, after I'm done connecting, the next step is to mark my dart. I'll start by marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2. So I'll just go ahead to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2, starting from the bust to the lower part of my pattern. Now, I'll take my ruler and I'll place and draw out a straight line on this part, taking it from the bust to the blouse length. After I'm done marking, I'll place and divide what I have at the shoulder into 2 and mark. Now, I'll connect from the shoulder all the way to the bust line. From that point, I'll go ahead to start taking my dart intake. For my dart intake, I'll be using 1 inch on both sides. If you're plus size, please go ahead to use 1.5 inches on both sides of your pattern. Now, I'll place my ruler, connect from the waist to the under bust, and then from the waist, I'll go ahead to extend this going down to the blouse length of the dress. After connecting, I'll connect at the other side of the pattern also. Now, I'll connect from the bust down to the under bust. While connecting, I'll make sure that I come down a little from the bust so that it will not have like a pointy edge. I'll also repeat the same process at this side and I'll connect. Now, after I'm done connecting, the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead, determine where I want my over bust corset to start, and I will mark. Place your tape and take the measurement that is okay. I'll rule a line there to serve as a guide. For the dart intake, I'll mark 0.5 inches on both sides, so I don't want it to gape at that side. Then I'll go ahead to extend it. After I'm done marking, I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline my pattern. After outlining, let's go ahead to insert our measurement. Mark your bust circumference divided by 4. See this dart at the over bust, that is what you replace, and then just add ½ inch for joining allowance. Mark your under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and just add ½ inch for joining allowance. Here, I want to snatch the waistline directly. Say the waistline is 26 and you want to reduce it to 24. So minus 2 inches from 26, what you have is 24 inches. Then divide that 24 inches by 4 and mark. It should give you 6 inches. Measure the dart intake, replace, and then add ½ inch for your sewing allowance. Now, after marking at that side, at the lower part, go ahead to mark your hip circumference divided by 4. Go ahead to add extra 4 to 6 inches after that. This is to give that flare effect depending on how wide you want yours to be, and add ½ inch for joining allowance. You want to go ahead to place your ruler and go ahead to connect your pattern starting from the bust, under bust, waist, and the blouse length. After that, you can decide to go up by ½ inch, 1 inch, or 2 inches to give there a little curve, and go ahead to connect. Since we have snatched our waistline already, what I'll add is a style line unless you want to snatch your waist with a dart. After marking your style line, you go ahead to impute your dart to snatch your waistline. So I just snatched my waist directly so that it will be easier, and I added a style line. So from there, I'll connect and draw out my neckline, blend this part, and then connect it to the side of my pattern. So this is what I have after I'm done marking out. Now let's go ahead to mark our bust dart. To get your bust dart is the difference between your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back. My shoulder to waist in front is 15 for this pattern. Now the shoulder to waist I'm using for the back is 13.5. So if you minus 13.5 from 15, have 1.5, which I marked. Now I'll label center front, middle front, and side front, right? Then I'll go ahead to cut this out. Now after cutting out, we are going to add an extension to this pattern, which will give it the 6x6 effect or flay effect that we want to achieve for this dress. So at this point, if you have any question, please go ahead to ask. And after I'm done cutting out, blend out this side and also go ahead to cut this out. Now let's go ahead to start adding additional pattern paper to create the flay effect on this dress. So you can decide to use 4 or 6 inches extension. So since this is a pattern, I'm just using extra 4 inches. So what I'll do is I'll place pattern paper underneath and I'll go ahead to pin. After pinning on each side, from the initial pattern I'll mark 4 inches, and from here I'll connect it up, and at the other side I'll extend it towards the end. I'll also mark that same 4 inches here and connect. Now if you want yours to be wide, you can use 6 inches for this, right? And then go ahead to cut this out. So I'm done drafting out the center front. Now let's go ahead to move to the middle front. Now I'll also go ahead to add pattern paper to this, and I will pin it down. So after pinning on both sides, I'll still mark that same 4 inches extension here. And after marking that, from my waistline, I'll connect it. Then I'll go ahead to connect this to the other side of my pattern from the waist down. Now after connecting, I'll just go ahead to cut this out. Now I'll repeat this at the other side, but before doing that, make sure that what you have here matches. So what I will do now is to go ahead to place, and to achieve a curve, you can just curve it out or like create any curve effect you want at the lower part. Now for this part, which is the side, you're only adding at the middle part because you have already added like a flay effect by the side. I'll place a pattern and I'll also go ahead to pin, and I'll measure 4 inches. From there I'll place my ruler, extend, and I will cut this out also. So after cutting this out, we'll go ahead to draft out the back pattern. Please go ahead to also place to make sure that it matches the side, and then before going ahead to cut out that of your back pattern. Now you'll be joining this in front and you'll be adding like boning to it. Now let's work on the back pattern. This is my shoulder to bust waist, and then the blouse length at the back is shorter. So after marking your shoulder to waist and blouse length, the next step is to mark your dart, which is your nipple to nipple divided by 2. Now I'll place my ruler to draw a straight line. I'll mark ½ inch on both sides of this pattern, and I'll come down by 1 inch here, place my ruler to connect, and also connect at the other side. Now I'll be extending this to the lower part of my pattern and also repeat this at the other side. I'll insert my body measurement at the bust side. Mark your bust circumference divided by 4. Since there's no dart there, you just add ½ inch for stitching up allowance. Mark that waistline you used for the front, which you snatched. Now that is what you also mark for the back pattern, and after marking it, measure the dart intake, replace, add ½ inch to it. Mark your hip circumference divided by 4 and add the extra 4 inches, then ½ inch for your stitching up allowance. Now you just go ahead and connect your pattern from the bust, waist, and blouse length. Now to mark the lacing, you can use any measurement. You can use 2 inches, 1.5. It totally depends on what you want to use. After marking that, draw a straight line at this point. Avoid the back popping up. Come down by ½ inch and connect it to the chest line. So I'll just go ahead and I will use my marker to outline my pattern to make it more visible for you to see. So by the side, come up by half, 1 inch or 1.5 and connect, and I will outline the rest of my pattern. The next step now is to go ahead to just cut this out, and after cutting out, we'll now go ahead to also add a style line for this back pattern, right? Just pick a point and I'll add like a style line to it, and I'll label it and then go ahead to cut it out. After cutting it out, we are now going to go ahead to add an extension to it also. So now here is my pattern. I'll start with the side and I will pin this down. After pinning down, I'll go ahead to add 4 inches to it, and I'm going to connect from here to that point and then connect it to this lower part. Then I'll just go ahead and trace it out. After cutting this out, we move over to the second pattern. I'll be adding 4 inches to the front, and I'll also add to the side also, right? So the only part that you're adding in front is just the last or third pattern, because you have already added the 4 inches or the extension to it. So this 4 inches is not a standard. You can use 6 inches, but this 4 is okay for this particular pattern. And I'll just go ahead to connect this and also cut out the other side. Now let's go ahead. I'll go ahead to place it together, and you can now go ahead to like trim out the lower part. Now let's add the extension here. For this part, we'll still add for the lacing area of this pattern and the side of the pattern also, because if you look at the back of this dress, you notice that it was also an extension was added to the lacing. After going ahead to pin, I'll go ahead to measure the 4 inches extension on this side, which I'm using, and then at the other side. Now I'll place this. Note that all this connection is starting from the waist to the extension, and I'll repeat this at the other side and go ahead to trace it out. Then I'll also go ahead to trace this out on this part and blend here out. I'll make a dot to indicate that we have a lacing at this part, right? So this is what I have. Now if you feel this lacing is too popped out, you can just go ahead to reduce it, and this is the pattern for the back.